Hello, welcome back. In this section, we're going to learn about one of the most fascinating concepts in Java, which is multithreading. Multithreading is being able to run more than one thing within your Java program at the same time. So in that sense, it's similar to multitasking, where you run more than one process or application at the same time. But multithreading is within a Java program, being able to run multiple flows or threads at the same time. To get started, let's create a new project for this. We're going to name it section 8. And once the project is created, let's go ahead and create a new class and also a new package at the same time. So we're going to name it com.java.section 8. And the name of the class, we're going to name it Runnable Test. We'll create the main method and hit finish. And before we get started, I'm just going to add a statement. Just follow along. You don't need to type this. I'm going to try to divide by 0. And we all know that's not good, but I wanted to show something. And we'll just do a run as Java application and see what happens. And as expected, right, we got an exception because we cannot divide by 0. It's not permitted. But if you see the exception closely, it says exception in thread main. So like I said, multi-threading is being able to run more than one thread within a Java program at the same time. And what this shows you is there is already a thread going on without us, doing anything special. There is a thread called main. So any Java program at least has one thread, which is the main thread. And multi-threading is being able to add more threads so that alongside a main thread, you can run multiple flows or multiple thread at the same time. That's basically the whole concept of multi-threading in Java. And one of the ways to create a multi-threaded program is by implementing an interface called Runnable. That's why we named the class Runnable Test. So let's delete this line and then go to the class and try to implement Runnable. And you don't need to import it because Runnable is already part of java.lang, so it's already imported for you. But let's see what this error is. And it says we have to implement the unimplemented method in the interface, which we know. And let's click this. What we get is one method. So runnable interface has a method called run, which is not implemented, which we need to implement. Whatever we type within this run method can technically be kicked off in its own thread. Let's see how this works. So within this thread, I'm just going to put a system.out.println just to show us that this is running in a new thread. So in new thread and with the semicolon. And let's go back to the main class, which is where our program starts executing. Now, in order to create a new thread, there is another class, not an interface, but a class called thread, which we need to instantiate. So let's just say thread t1 equals new thread. And this constructor takes in an implementation of Runnable. And we already have an implementation of Runnable, which is Runnable test. So we can just say new Runnable test and with the semicolon. So just to recap, what we have done is created a new thread and passed to the constructor an implementation of Runnable. And from here is just a simple matter of calling the start method on the thread. So just note that we didn't call run directly. We need to call the thread start method, which will eventually call the run implemented for the runnable test. You can never call run directly. It doesn't work that way. So let's just run this just to see what happens. Run as Java application. We got the message in new thread, but this is not anything new because we've several times called methods right from our main method, that does the same thing. And just to show the difference, let's just put a system.out.println in main thread now. In main thread. So normally, if you remember from our methods that we have seen in the previous videos, when you call a method, the control or program control basically goes to the method, finishes that completely, and then comes back to the calling method and continues, right? So in the same way, if we call a method here, it should go here and display whatever is in the method and come back. In short, in new thread should display first, and then in main thread should display next. That's how normal method calls work. Let's try to run this to see what happens. Run as Java application. Look at that. But we got in main thread first and then in new thread next. So what that tells us is once this is run, so basically that thread is started, the main thread doesn't stop executing. The main thread continues to execute while the other thread also executes in parallel, which is why in main thread displayed immediately. Otherwise, if this were a regular method call, in new thread will display first. So hope this shows how parallel thread kicks off at the same time as the main thread, and two threads are executing at the same time. And that's basically the concept of multi-threading using a runnable interface. In the following videos, we'll look at some more concepts in multi-threading, but this kind of is the simplest implementation or even the most popular implementation of multi-threading in Java. You would very frequently implement the runnable interface, which is the simplest way and the most frequent way we implement multi-threading in Java. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.